Hey everybody, welcome to SPG. I really hope you liked the teaser I did of the Cuddy, which is going to be the main focus of the video today. We're going to kind of touch into the overview of it, condition of the car, our early plans for it. This car is going to develop over the next few years and hopefully eventually turn into a full-on drag car. But we got a long journey for that one. So let's get started. Here she is in all her glory. T-tops, my favorite thing about the car. The paint, on the other hand, she's not pretty at all. Paint, bodywork, needs a lot of it, but our goal is to race her next season, so she's gonna be a little ugly, but we're gonna be going hopefully fast while looking like trash. The AC heater's already been blocked off. According to the previous owner, it was a strip/street car back in the late 90s, early 2000s. He bought it as a roller back in 2004 with plans to race it himself. He never actually got around to do it, so it's been sitting like this since 2004, and I'm gonna bring her back to life. In the engine bay, I'm just gonna clean it up, get rid of that. We're going to manual brakes. I am gonna keep the stock power steering for now. Now onto the interior. It's mostly there, minus the carpet, the radio, heater controls, all that's been taken out. They actually cut up the harness on the back side quite a bit. They just chopped, cut, everything's gone to make it as minimal as possible. The aftermarket Grant GT steering wheel, I kind of like it. I'm going to try and clean it up, use it for a little bit. The floor, the driver's side is by far the worst one. As you see, we got holes all throughout this, with some little holes throughout. Not too bad. The passenger side, we only got one little spot. The back seat actually looks pretty good. Obviously, all that's going. Drive shaft, old, don't need it. Center console, glad we have that. Can't wait to actually modify that. I do have the lightning rod shifters. I don't know if I'm going to try and modify those to use them, or if I'm just going to go to a Motion Raceworks type shifter, because we are using a TH400 trans in this. The trunk. That was all rust that just fell there. Trunk lid's gonna need replaced at one point. And we got even more. Driver's side, passenger side, all rusty. We're gonna go ahead and fix that. And while we're fixing that, we're going to end up cutting out most of this trunk pan, which it looks good, but I wanna get rid of the spare wheel well. And I do wanna drop a fuel cell down through it, and it's going to sit in a similar location as the stock fuel tank now. So we'll end up sheet metaling around, probably build a location for the battery. I'm going to keep the hump, I think, because it still looks really good. Probably just do this back half here. The battery tray they had in here, it actually broke up through the floor because it rusted. I wasn't a big fan of how it was there anyways. The battery cable, it runs up through the frame up to that toggle switch that was inside. I'm not a big fan of that. I still haven't decided what kind of switch panel I'm gonna run yet. It's probably gonna sit in the same location as the radio. Well, radio would be, because this ain't the race car. We're not going to run a radio. And since we're back here, I'll just go ahead and talk about the rear end a little bit. Right now, it's still the stock 7.5 inch 10 bolt. Not a big fan of it. It's not a good rear end by any means. So we're actually going to be doing a Ford 9 inch. Think I'm going to run a quick performance one to start out, and maybe go to like a TRZ later on the road when this thing turns into more and more of a race car. But for this first phase of the build, we're trying to do a budget. trying to build on a budget around here. Now we're going to jump to that TH400 I was talking about. I just picked this up a few weeks ago in preparation for this. It came out of an 80s GM and it's going right back into an 80s GM. And because of that, it is a bolt-in style yoke right now. We are going to go ahead and switch to a slip yoke. As far as parts, we're not going to do too much to start off. We're going to do a simple rebuild kit. Get one of those like master overhauls with pretty much all new gaskets, the steels, the frictions, all that. Obviously, new pump. Input output shafts are going to stay stock. We are going to do a case saver inside this along with a 4L80E drum because they hold up better. We'll be doing a deep pan along with a manual valve body. Haven't quite decided if I'm going to do forward or reverse pattern yet. And I'm going to try and keep the second gear engine braking because it is beneficial for street driving. They actually make valve body kits and a case saver that will keep the intermediate band to keep the second gear engine braking. And doing those little things, it should hold the 700 to 800 horsepower I plan to make at the start. Once you start pushing into the 4-digit numbers is when they can start to cost a little bit more. I will be running a blanket and probably a cover, just so that way I have some sort of safety protection while I'm running. Haven't quite figured out the converter yet. Will be one of the last things I probably figure out. I'm going to figure out the engine, rear end, all that stuff, or rear gear ratio first. Torque converter will come last. But I do have the engine we're going to use already. So let's go take a look at that. And the glorious 5.3 iron block LS. It does have the 706 aluminum heads on it. They're going to work well for our power level that we're aiming for, which, as I said, was about the 700 to 800 range. We're just going to do a simple rebuild on this, mainly just top end, turbo cam, valves, retainers, LS9 head gaskets, LS7 lifters, ARP head studs, just to try and make it a little bit more reliable at that power level. I am going to stick with the Gen 3 bottom end. I know it's not the strongest and it's weaker, but when I do blow it up, because I will blow it up, I would rather not cry myself to sleep that night by keeping the cost down. And we will run probably the stock coils, obviously upgrade the wires. The front end, most of it's going. All we need is the alternator, power steering pump, water pump, AC's going, don't need it, out of here. We'll probably run the stock intake for now. Probably will upgrade the throttle body. I really like the Motion Racework ones, the Icon series. But that's big boy money. I do have the stock harness and ECU. We will be using HP tuners to start. I would love to go to Holley eventually, but this first phase is going to be cheap. It will be getting a big-ish single turbo. That's why I bought the TIG welder there. I plan on building the turbo kit, the roll cage, everything myself. Should be a fun experience, learning experience. I will mess up, but that's why you guys can learn from my failures on what not to do. And I can't wait for it to all come together. It's going to be a lot of fun. Pretty sure I said it earlier in the video, but the goal is to start racing next season. Don't know how realistic that's going to be, but I'm going to try my hardest to push for it. This is just a start to a very long journey as we build the car, race it, blow it up. and do it all over again. Because around here, we're trying to go fast, not broke. Take it easy.